90 days ago, I made a commitment I was not entirely sure I could keep. I would document every alternative electrical generation system I could build for under $50, run each one for a minimum of 2 weeks, and report every number honestly. The outputs that worked, the ones that disappointed, and the ones that surprised me in directions I did not anticipate. No inflated claims, no convenient omissions. Just the data logger readings and what they mean for anyone who wants to build something real. That commitment produced 6 systems, 14 weeks of continuous measurement, and one conclusion I did not expect when I started. Let me walk you through all of it. I did not invent any of these systems. I am not going to pretend this 90-day experiment developed new science. Every generation method documented in this report has been covered individually in earlier videos on this channel, each with its own historical record and academic literature. What this experiment added was not new knowledge about any individual system. It was 90 days of direct comparison data between systems running simultaneously on the same property, under the same weather conditions, measured by the same instruments. That comparison is what produced the unexpected conclusion. You already know each of these systems if you have followed this channel from the beginning. The Earth Battery Array, the salt-carbon supercapacitor cells, the thermoelectric module on the wood stove, the atmospheric electricity collection antenna, the Baghdad Battery replica running in a series bank, the Fresnel lens charging system. You have seen the individual performance numbers for each one. What you have not seen until now is what they look like running side by side for 90 days, and which ones held their performance, and which ones quietly declined when the novelty of the first measurement was gone. Here is how I set up the comparison to make it honest. Each system was connected to its own dedicated data logger recording voltage and current at 15-minute intervals. Each system fed into a common charge accumulation point, a bank of supercapacitors totaling 48 farads at 12 volts nominal, through individual blocking diodes that prevented any system from drawing from the bank instead of contributing to it. The total energy stored in the supercapacitor bank at each hour of the day, measured in watt-hours, was my primary metric. Not peak voltage, not best day performance. Cumulative energy delivered to a common storage point over 90 days. Here is the part that gets me every time about 90-day data versus a single afternoon test. A single afternoon test measures ideal performance. The first day of any new system is usually its best day because everything is clean, everything is optimally positioned, and you are paying close attention. 90 days measures what a system actually delivers when weather varies, when electrodes corrode, when soil dries out between rains, when attention drifts. The gap between single afternoon performance and 90-day average performance is where the honest story lives, and that gap was larger for some systems than I expected. Here is what I need you to understand about how this experiment was built before I give you the numbers. And I want to be honest with you. This is genuinely the full picture. The Earth Battery Array of 200 cells in river clay soil, the system that generated the most viewer interest across this series, performed as its best day numbers suggested during the first 2 weeks, while soil moisture from autumn rains kept ionic content high. During the 3-week dry period in weeks 4 through 6, average output dropped to approximately 22% of the wet soil figures. During weeks 7 through 10, after regular rainfall returned, output recovered to approximately 78% of peak. Weather dependency is the primary variable in Earth battery performance, and it is not a variable you can engineer around at the electrode level. You can partially compensate with irrigation of the soil around the electrode grid, which I tested in weeks 11 and 12 with a modest improvement, but the water you use for irrigation carries its own cost. The supercapacitor bank, the data logger, the blocking diodes, and the charge accumulation system used in this experiment are all linked in the description below and in the first pinned comment. If you want to run a similar comparison on your own systems, those are the instruments you need. Now let me walk through each system's 90-day average daily contribution to the storage bank, from lowest to highest performer. Atmospheric electricity collection, 14-day average after initial setup period, 0.03 watt-hours per day. This is the most honest number in the entire dataset and the one I was most reluctant to publish. The atmospheric collection system produces real, measurable voltage consistently. It does not produce meaningful energy accumulation at the antenna scale I built. The system I tested, a 20-foot vertical antenna in well-grounded, moist clay soil, delivered less than a minute of LED illumination per day in average conditions. It is a real phenomenon. It is not a practical energy source at the scale achievable without significant infrastructure. Here is where most people abandon the entire concept of ambient energy generation based on one disappointing result. They test atmospheric collection, see the low practical output, and conclude that all alternative generation methods are similarly limited. The atmospheric collection result does not generalize to the other systems. Each system has a completely different output profile, a different weather dependency pattern, and a different practical application range. One disappointing result from one method tells you about that method. It tells you nothing about the others. Baghdad Battery Replica Bank. I ran 12 cells in a series parallel configuration, producing approximately 8.4 volts nominal. 90-day average contribution to the storage bank, 0.12 watt-hours per day. Higher than atmospheric collection, but still in the range of demonstration rather than practical application. The iron electrodes showed visible corrosion starting at week 3, requiring cleaning at weeks 3, 6, and 9 to maintain output. Without maintenance, the output dropped to approximately 40% of clean electrode figures. The Baghdad Battery is a genuine galvanic cell. It is not a low-maintenance power source. Salt-carbon supercapacitor cells. 6 pairs charged by the Earth battery array during high output periods and independently recharged by the TEG module during wood stove operation. 90-day net contribution after accounting for self-discharge losses. 0.38 watt-hours per day average. The self-discharge rate of the salt-carbon cells was the primary limiting factor. During periods when input from other sources was low, the storage cells lost charge faster than the array could replenish it. Earth battery array. 90-day average, 1.14 watt-hours per day. This is the baseline continuous generation number for 200 cells in optimized soil with weather variation included. During the best week, the daily average was 2.6 watt-hours. During the worst week of the dry period, it was 0.19 watt-hours. High variance, meaningful average. Here is the second place where most people in this experiment's audience will misread the data. They will compare the Earth battery's 1.14 watt-hours per day to their household consumption and conclude it is irrelevant. That comparison is valid for whole house power. It is not valid for targeted low-draw applications. 1.14 watt-hours per day powers a small LED for approximately 15 hours. It powers a low-draw sensor circuit continuously. It powers an emergency radio for several daily listening sessions. The question is not whether Earth battery output matches your household load. The question is whether it matches the load of your lowest draw application. For that question, the answer changes significantly. Thermoelectric generator module on the wood stove. This was the system that produced the largest gap between single afternoon test results and 90-day average in the positive direction. Average daily contribution during the 41 days when the wood stove was in active use, 4.8 watt-hours per day. This is the highest per-day figure of any system in the experiment during operating periods. The TEG module performs consistently as long as the stove is burning. It does not depend on weather, soil moisture, or electrolyte concentration. It depends only on whether the stove is lit. During the 41 active stove days of the 90-day period, the TEG contributed 61% of the total energy stored in the supercapacitor bank, despite being the most recently added system. Press your palm flat against the data logger housing after downloading 90 days of readings. That housing has been sitting in an unheated space through autumn temperature swings, recording a data point every 15 minutes without interruption. 432 readings per day. 38,880 readings total. Each one a small, honest answer to the question of what these systems actually deliver when nobody is watching. That continuity of measurement is what separates a demonstration from a result. If you want to build on these 90 days of data and integrate the highest performing systems into a complete off-grid power plan for your property, the Energy Revolution system does exactly that. You will see a QR code in the bottom right corner of your screen right now. Point your phone camera at it, and it will take you directly there. It goes beyond individual system performance into the architecture of how multiple sources work together across seasons and weather patterns. At 30 days, the performance hierarchy between systems was becoming clear. At 60 days, the weather dependency patterns of the Earth battery array were fully visible and quantified. At 90 days, the total energy delivered to the storage bank from all sources combined was 14.2 watt-hours, representing 90 days of ambient generation from under $50 of total infrastructure investment. That figure powers a small LED for approximately 213 hours, or a low-draw emergency radio for approximately 71 listening hours, or a single charge of a basic GPS device with remaining capacity. This is not really about the numbers. It is about what 90 days of honest measurement teaches you that no single afternoon can. About the difference between what a system promises on its best day and what it delivers across its average day. About building experiments that answer questions rather than confirm expectations. You do not need to run 90 days of logged data to get value from these systems. But if you want to know what something actually produces, 2 weeks of continuous logging will tell you more than any number of single afternoon tests. Start with one system, one logger, 2 weeks. Write down what you find. If this 90-day report changed the way you evaluate any energy experiment you have seen, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing practical wisdom that the modern world has tried to bury. Measure honestly and build on what is real. The next treasure of forgotten knowledge will be revealed soon.